told you that before you were born, you sat in a realm beyond time and space and carefully selected every member of your family? What if your difficult mother, your absent father, your challenging siblings, what if you chose them all? Not randomly, not as punishment, but with the precision of a master architect designing the perfect blueprint for your soul's growth. Edgar Cayce, the legendary sleeping prophet whose psychic abilities astounded the world, revealed something that will completely revolutionize how you see your family relationships. He discovered that souls don't just randomly get assigned to families. They orchestrate elaborate spiritual contracts, choosing parents, siblings, and children with surgical precision to create the exact circumstances needed for mutual evolution. And here's what will blow your mind. The family that drives you crazy, the relationships that challenge you most, the dynamics that seem impossible to understand. These were all planned by your own soul before you took your first breath. Think about that for a moment. Every argument with your parents, every sibling rivalry, every family dysfunction that you've spent years in therapy trying to understand. What if it's all unfolding exactly according to a divine plan that you, yourself, helped design? But here's the question that's going to haunt you. If your soul was wise enough to choose this family for specific reasons, what are those reasons? And more importantly, are you learning the lessons you came here to learn, or are you missing the entire point of why you're together? Stay with me, because what Edgar Cayce revealed about how souls choose their families will either give you profound peace about your relationships, or force you to completely rethink everything you thought you knew about why certain people are in your life. If this is already making you think differently about your own family, drop a comment and let me know. Are you ready to discover the spiritual reasons behind your family dynamics? And if you want to explore these deep mysteries with thousands of others on the same journey, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We're uncovering truths that can transform how you see your closest relationships. Now, let me take you behind the veil to show you exactly how your soul chose the family that would shape your destiny. Sacred Council. It all begins in what Edgar Cayce called the Great Assembly, a gathering of souls that happens in dimensions beyond our physical understanding, where the most important decisions of your eternal existence are made. Picture this: your soul, having just completed a lifetime and processed all the lessons learned and missed, approaches a council of the wisest beings in the universe. These aren't strangers judging you. They're aspects of your own higher consciousness, combined with guides who have overseen your spiritual development across countless lifetimes. And in this sacred space, your soul makes a declaration that will echo through decades of human experience. I'm ready to grow in ways I've never grown before. I'm ready to heal patterns I've carried for lifetimes. I'm ready to serve and be served in ways that will push me beyond everything I think I know about love. That's when the selection process begins. But here's what Cayce discovered that changes everything about how we understand family relationships. Your soul doesn't choose a family to be comfortable. It chooses a family to evolve. The mother who seems too controlling? Your soul specifically requested her because you needed to learn boundaries and independence. The father who was emotionally distant? Your soul knew that this experience would force you to develop self-reliance and inner strength. The sibling who always seemed to get more attention? Your soul orchestrated this dynamic to help you discover your own unique value that doesn't depend on external validation. Every challenging family dynamic is a curriculum your soul designed for its own education, but it gets even more profound than that. Cayce revealed that family selection happens through what he called vibrational matching. Your soul doesn't randomly pick names from a cosmic hat. It seeks out other souls whose energy signatures will create the exact friction, support, challenge, and love needed for mutual growth. That difficult family member who triggers your deepest wounds? They volunteered for that role because they love your soul so much they were willing to be misunderstood, resented, even hated in your human experience, just to help you heal and grow. Let that sink in for a moment. The person in your family who causes you the most frustration might be the soul who loves you enough to take on the hardest job in your spiritual education. And here's something that will absolutely astound you. These family contracts aren't made in isolation. Multiple souls gather together, planning interconnected lifetimes like a cosmic choreography. Your parents didn't just choose you, they chose each other, knowing that their relationship would create the specific environment your soul needed to learn its lessons. Your siblings didn't just end up in your family by chance. They're souls who have been working with you across multiple lifetimes, taking turns being the teacher, the student, the challenger, the supporter. If you're feeling overwhelmed thinking about the complexity of these spiritual arrangements, you're not alone. Share your thoughts in the comments. Does knowing that your family relationships were planned in the spiritual realm change how you see your current family dynamics? When you engage authentically with these ideas, it helps our entire community process these profound truths together. And if your comment shows real reflection, I'll mark it with a heart to acknowledge your spiritual courage. But the family selection process goes even deeper than choosing roles and relationships. Because your soul also has to choose the specific circumstances, the cultural background, the economic situation, even the geographical location that will provide the perfect classroom for its intended lessons. The perfect storm of circumstances. When your soul chooses a family, it's not just selecting the people. It's choosing an entire life situation designed with the precision of a master strategist, planning the most important campaign of all time, the campaign for your spiritual evolution. Think about the circumstances you were born into, your family's economic status, their cultural background, their religious beliefs or lack thereof, their location in the world, their emotional patterns, their strengths and their dysfunctions. Every single detail was chosen by your soul for specific reasons. Were you born into poverty? Your soul knew that financial struggle would teach you resilience, creativity, and the ability to find happiness independent of material possessions. Did you come into wealth? Your soul understood that privilege would bring its own challenges, the lessons of responsibility, humility, and service to others. Were you born into a religious family? Your soul might have needed the structure and moral foundation that spiritual tradition provides. Or perhaps you needed to eventually rebel against rigid thinking to develop your own authentic relationship with the divine. Did you come from a broken home? Your soul might have chosen divorce and family conflict to learn independence early, to understand that happiness comes from within, or to develop the strength to break generational patterns of dysfunction. But here's where Cayce's revelations become truly mind-blowing. Your soul doesn't just choose circumstances to learn lessons. It also chooses them to heal ancestral patterns that have been carried through family lines for generations. Sometimes you incarnate into a family, not primarily for your own growth, but as a healer. Your soul volunteers to be the one who breaks the cycle of abuse, addiction, or emotional dysfunction that has plagued your family line for generations. You're not just living your own life. You're potentially healing wounds that stretch back through centuries of your genetic and spiritual lineage. That family trauma that seems so overwhelming. You might be the soul who specifically chose to incarnate into this family line to transform that trauma into wisdom, pain into compassion, dysfunction into healing. And here's something that will give you chills. Cayce discovered that some souls are so advanced, so committed to service, that they choose extremely difficult family situations not for their own learning, but purely to help other family members grow. These are the children who seem wise beyond their years, born into chaotic families but somehow radiating peace. These are the family members who remain loving despite being treated poorly, who serve as bridges between conflicted relatives, who bring light into dark family dynamics. If you've ever felt like the family peacemaker, the one who seems different from everyone else, the one who somehow ended up being the emotional caretaker despite being younger or less experienced, your soul might have specifically chosen this role as a gift to your family's collective healing. But the most profound part of family soul contracts isn't what they're designed to teach you. It's what they reveal about the true nature of love. The love behind the lesson. Here's what Edgar Cayce discovered that will transform how you see every difficult family relationship. The souls who agree to play the hardest roles in your life are often the ones who love you most in the spiritual realm. Let me paint you a picture that might completely change how you see your family dynamics. Before birth, in that sacred space where soul contracts are made, your most difficult parent approaches you with eyes full of love and says something like this: "In our upcoming lifetime, I'm willing to be the parent you need to push against to develop your strength. I'm willing to be misunderstood, even resented, if it helps you learn independence, self-reliance, and inner power. I love you enough to take on this difficult role." And your challenging sibling might say, "I'll be the one who competes with you for attention, who pushes your buttons, who forces you to discover your own unique gifts. I'll help you learn that your worth isn't dependent on comparison or approval. I love you enough to be your sparring partner in this lifetime." Even that family member who seems toxic, who creates drama wherever they go, they might be a soul who loves you so deeply that they agreed to be the catalyst for your growth, knowing that their difficult behavior would force you to develop boundaries, self-respect, and emotional independence. This doesn't mean you should tolerate abuse or accept harmful behavior. It means you can understand the spiritual purpose behind challenging relationships while still protecting yourself and making healthy choices. Cayce revealed that the most evolved souls often take on the most challenging family roles because they're strong enough to carry the karma of being misunderstood, criticized, or even hated in service of another soul's growth. But here's where this gets really interesting. The family dynamics that seem most random, most unfair, most impossible to understand are often the result of incredibly complex spiritual agreements that span multiple lifetimes. That parent who seems incapable of giving you the love you need. You might have been their child in a previous lifetime where they gave you everything, and now the roles are reversed so you can learn to love unconditionally regardless of what you receive. That sibling who always seemed to get more attention. In another lifetime, you might have been the favored child, and now you're both learning different sides of the same lesson about self-worth and family dynamics. The family member who abandoned you. Your soul might have done the same to them in another incarnation, and now you're both experiencing the other side of abandonment to develop compassion and understanding. These aren't punishments. They're precisely designed educational experiences that help souls develop empathy by experiencing multiple perspectives of the same situation across different lifetimes. And sometimes the most profound family contracts are made between souls who have hurt each other in previous lifetimes and are now volunteering to heal that karma through service and sacrifice. If this is making you see your family relationships in a completely new light, I want to hear about it. Drop a comment, sharing one family dynamic that makes more sense now that you understand. It might be part of a spiritual contract. Your insight could be exactly what someone else needs to understand their own family situation. But there's another layer to family soul contracts that most people never consider. Sometimes the most important family member isn't someone you're born with. Sometimes it's someone who gets added to the family through marriage, adoption, or other circumstances. The souls who join the dance. Edgar Cayce revealed something fascinating about family soul contracts. They're not static arrangements set in stone before birth. They're dynamic, living agreements that can expand and evolve as souls grow and circumstances change. Sometimes, the most important spiritual teacher in your family isn't your biological parent or sibling. Sometimes it's the step-parent who enters your life when you're 10 years old, bringing exactly the energy and lessons your soul needs at that stage of development. Or the adopted child who arrives to transform the entire family's understanding of love, sacrifice, and what it truly means to be connected by more than blood. Or the spouse who marries into your family and somehow becomes the bridge that heals decades of dysfunction and misunderstanding. These souls haven't broken the family contract. They've fulfilled it. They're the reinforcements that your family's collective soul knew would be needed at specific points in your shared journey. Cayce explained that some souls make agreements to enter families not at birth, but at precisely timed moments when their energy will have maximum impact. The stepfather who arrives just when a teenager needs masculine guidance. The daughter-in-law who brings healing skills that help the whole family process generational trauma. The grandparent who survives long enough to share wisdom that changes the trajectory of the entire family line. But here's what's truly extraordinary. Sometimes souls contract to leave families at specific times because their departure will teach lessons that their presence never could. That family member who died young. Their soul might have agreed to a short physical incarnation specifically to teach the rest of the family about grief, about the preciousness of time, about love that transcends physical existence. The parent who leaves through divorce or abandonment. Their soul might have known that their departure would force other family members to discover inner strength, independence, or the ability to love themselves. Even family members who struggle with addiction, mental illness, or other challenges that ultimately lead to early death. These souls might have volunteered for extremely difficult incarnations, specifically to serve their family's spiritual education. This isn't about glorifying suffering or suggesting that pain is always purposeful in ways that make it acceptable. It's about understanding that from the soul's perspective, every experience, including the most difficult ones, can serve spiritual growth if we're open to the lessons they offer. And sometimes the most profound family contracts involve souls who agree to love each other unconditionally through the most challenging circumstances possible. The parent who cares for a child with severe disabilities for decades, never complaining, always serving, that's a soul fulfilling an agreement to demonstrate divine love in human form. The child who remains devoted to parents with dementia, Alzheimer's, or other conditions that strip away personality and memory. They're fulfilling a contract to love the essence of a person, even when the familiar personality disappears. These are some of the most advanced spiritual agreements possible. Souls who love each other so much they're willing to take on lifetimes of service, sacrifice, and unconditional devotion. But Cayce also revealed something else about family soul contracts that might surprise you. Not every soul in your family has a contract with you. Some are simply along for the ride, learning their own lessons while your primary spiritual work happens with specific family members. Understanding which relationships are your primary spiritual contracts and which are secondary can help you focus your energy on the relationships that matter most for your soul's evolution. The contracts that define everything. So, how do you identify which family relationships are your primary soul contracts versus which ones are simply circumstantial? Edgar Cayce provided specific indicators that reveal the difference between casual family connections and profound spiritual agreements that span multiple lifetimes. First, look for intensity. The relationships that trigger your strongest emotions, both positive and negative, are usually your most important soul contracts. The family member who can make you angrier than anyone else, who pushes buttons you didn't even know you had, is probably teaching you your most important lessons. But intensity isn't just about conflict. The family member you feel inexplicably close to, who understands you in ways that seem almost telepathic, who you feel you've known forever. That's also likely a primary soul contract. Second, notice patterns of unfinished business. The family relationships where the same issues keep arising despite your best efforts to resolve them, where you find yourself having the same arguments or facing the same dynamics repeatedly, these often indicate karmic patterns from previous lifetimes that need healing. Third, pay attention to the relationships that force you to grow the most. The family member who challenges you to become more patient, more forgiving, more independent, more loving. They're probably fulfilling a soul contract to help you develop specific spiritual qualities. But here's something Cayce emphasized that might surprise you. Not all primary soul contracts with family members are meant to last an entire lifetime. Some souls contract to be intensely important to each other for specific periods, then naturally grow apart as their shared lessons are completed. That sibling you were incredibly close to as a child, but drifted away from as an adult. The completion of that distance might indicate that you've both learned what you needed to learn from each other during childhood, and now you're free to pursue other relationships and experiences. The parent you had intense conflict with for years, but suddenly found peace with. That shift might signal that the karmic pattern between you has been healed, and now you can enjoy a more harmonious relationship based on choice rather than spiritual necessity. And sometimes, the most important realization about family soul contracts is recognizing when you've completed your agreements and are free to create healthy boundaries or even distance yourself from family members whose energy no longer serves your growth. Cayce was very clear about this. Soul contracts are about spiritual evolution, not endless suffering. If a family relationship becomes purely destructive without any opportunity for growth or healing, it might be time to honor the lessons learned and protect your energy for relationships that continue to serve your highest good. This is especially important for people who grew up in genuinely abusive or toxic family situations. Understanding that you might have chosen these experiences for spiritual reasons doesn't mean you're obligated to continue subjecting yourself to harm. Sometimes the greatest spiritual growth comes from learning to love family members from a distance while refusing to enable destructive behavior. And here's something that might give you profound peace. Cayce revealed that truly completing a soul contract with a family member doesn't end your connection. It transforms it. The love between you becomes unconditional because it's no longer dependent on specific behaviors or dynamics. You can love your difficult parent without needing them to change. You can feel compassion for your troubled sibling without taking responsibility for fixing them. You can appreciate what your family has taught you without remaining stuck in patterns that no longer serve anyone's growth. If you're recognizing your own family dynamics in what I'm sharing, I want to hear about it. Comment below and let me know. Which family relationship has been your greatest teacher, and what do you think that relationship is trying to help you learn? When you share these insights, it helps everyone in our community understand their own family contracts more clearly. But there's one more aspect of family soul contracts that Edgar Cayce revealed that might completely change how you approach your closest relationships going forward. The healing that changes everything. Here's the most profound truth Edgar Cayce discovered about family soul contracts. The healing of one family relationship can transform your entire family line, reaching backward through generations of ancestors and forward through generations of descendants. When you heal a pattern with a parent, you're not just healing that one relationship. You're potentially healing that same pattern for everyone in your family tree who has struggled with it. Let me explain how this works. Families carry what Cayce called energy signatures, patterns of behavior, belief, and emotion that get passed down through generations like genetic traits. Anger, addiction, depression, poverty consciousness, fear of intimacy. These patterns move through family lines until someone chooses to heal them. And often, the soul who incarnates with the strength and wisdom to break these patterns has specifically chosen that family to serve as a healer for the entire lineage. Maybe you're the first person in your family line to break the cycle of addiction. Your healing doesn't just free you. It creates a new energetic template that makes it easier for future generations to choose sobriety. Maybe you're the first person in your family to develop healthy relationship patterns after generations of dysfunction. Your emotional healing creates a blueprint that your children and their children can follow. Maybe you're the first person in your family line to pursue education, create financial abundance, or develop spiritual awareness. Your breakthroughs become available to everyone connected to your family's energy field. This is why your family relationships matter so much. You're not just working out personal issues. You're potentially liberating entire bloodlines from patterns that have created suffering for generations. But here's what's even more remarkable. This healing doesn't just move forward through descendants. It can actually move backward through ancestors who have already passed on. Cayce revealed that when you heal a family pattern in this lifetime, it creates waves of healing that ripple through the spiritual dimensions, offering freedom to ancestor souls who might still be trapped in the same patterns they couldn't break while alive. Your grandmother who died bitter and angry. Your choice to develop forgiveness and release resentment might help her soul find peace in the afterlife. Your grandfather who struggled with alcoholism. Your recovery might provide him with the healing he couldn't achieve in physical form. This means that every family argument you choose to resolve with love instead of anger, every generational pattern you refuse to pass on to your children, every moment you choose healing over hurt, these aren't just personal victories. They're gifts to your entire family soul group across time and space. And sometimes, the most powerful healing happens through forgiveness that seems impossible from a human perspective, but becomes natural when you understand the spiritual agreements involved. Forgiving the parent who abandoned you becomes possible when you understand they might have agreed to leave specifically to teach you independence and self-reliance. Releasing resentment toward the family member who got all the attention becomes easier when you realize this dynamic was designed to help you discover your own unique value. Making peace with a difficult relative who seemed to cause nothing but drama becomes achievable when you see them as a soul who loved you enough to take on a thankless role in your spiritual education. This doesn't mean pretending that harmful behavior was acceptable. It means understanding that every soul, including yours, is trying to grow and learn through whatever experiences are available to them. But here's the ultimate truth about family soul contracts that Edgar Cayce wanted everyone to understand. The most important healing isn't what happens between you and your family members, it's what happens within your own relationship to love itself. Your family was chosen to teach you how to love unconditionally. Not just to love people who are easy to love, but to love people who challenge you, who trigger you, who disappoint you, who don't meet your expectations. Every difficult family member is asking you the same spiritual question. Can you love me anyway? Can you find compassion for my struggles? Can you see the divine essence beneath my human flaws? And as you learn to answer yes to these questions, not by enabling harmful behavior, but by maintaining an open heart, even in the face of difficulty, you develop the capacity for divine love that extends far beyond your family relationships. You become someone who can love unconditionally in all your relationships. You develop the spiritual maturity that comes from understanding that everyone is doing the best they can with the consciousness they currently possess. The choice that changes everything. Now that you understand how your soul chose your family and why these relationships exist in your life, you face the most important decision of your spiritual journey. What are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you continue seeing your family members as random people who just happen to be related to you? Or will you begin to see them as souls who love you enough to help you grow? Will you keep focusing on what your family didn't give you? Or will you start recognizing what they're trying to teach you? Will you remain stuck in old patterns of resentment and blame? Or will you begin the healing work that could transform not just your relationships, but your entire family line. Because here's what I need you to understand. You're not just living your life. You're completing spiritual contracts that your soul made before you were born. Every family interaction is an opportunity to fulfill agreements, learn lessons, and heal patterns. The conversation with your mother that you've been avoiding. It might be exactly the healing moment your soul contracted to experience. The forgiveness you need to extend to your father. It could be the key to breaking a generational pattern of anger and resentment. The boundary you need to set with that difficult relative. It might be precisely the lesson in self-respect that your soul came here to learn. You have the power to transform your family relationships, starting today. Not by changing other people, you can't control their choices, but by changing your own response to the spiritual curriculum they're providing. What if you approached your next family interaction with the understanding that this person is a soul who agreed to help you grow? What if you looked for the lesson instead of focusing on the frustration? What if you responded with curiosity about what you're meant to learn instead of reacting with old patterns of defense or attack? And here's something that might give you incredible hope. As you begin to approach your family relationships as spiritual assignments instead of random sources of stress, something magical happens. The relationships themselves begin to transform. When you stop expecting your family members to be different and start appreciating the growth opportunities they provide, they often naturally become easier to be around. When you release the need for them to meet expectations they never agreed to meet, space opens up for more authentic connection. When you see their difficult behaviors as attempts to fulfill their part of your spiritual contract rather than personal attacks on you, your emotional reactivity decreases and your compassion increases. This doesn't happen overnight. These are patterns you've been practicing for years, maybe decades. But every small shift you make towards spiritual understanding creates ripples that affect all your relationships. Your family members are your first spiritual teachers, your primary training ground for learning how to love unconditionally. The skills you develop in navigating these relationships, patience, forgiveness, boundary setting, compassion, these become the foundation for every other relationship in your life. If you're feeling inspired to approach your family relationships differently, I want to hear about it. Comment below and share one thing you're going to do differently in your next family interaction based on what you've learned today. Your commitment to growth inspires others to do their own family healing work. And if this message is resonating deeply with you, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our explorations of these profound spiritual truths. Share this video with someone who might need a new perspective on their family dynamics. Your sharing might be exactly what their soul needs to begin its own healing journey. The love that never ends. As we reach the end of our exploration into how souls choose their families, I want to leave you with the most beautiful truth Edgar Cayce revealed about these sacred relationships. Your family isn't just connected to you for this one lifetime. These are souls you've loved across eternity who will continue to love you long after your current physical forms are gone. The difficult parent who challenges you now, they might have been your devoted child in another lifetime. The sibling who competes with you, they could have been your closest friend in a previous incarnation. The family member who seems so different from you, they might be your most ancient spiritual companion, choosing to explore a completely different personality to help you both grow. Death doesn't end these relationships. It simply moves them to a different plane of existence where the love that's always been underneath the human drama becomes clear and pure. Every family argument, every moment of conflict, every period of distance or misunderstanding, these are just temporary cloud cover, hiding the eternal love that connects your souls. And someday, when your current lifetime ends and you return to that sacred space where soul contracts are made, you'll reunite with these family souls and see the entire human experience from a perspective of infinite love and understanding. You'll see how every difficult moment served your mutual growth. You'll understand how even the most painful experiences contributed to your spiritual evolution. You'll feel nothing but gratitude for souls who loved you enough to play difficult roles in your earthly education. But you don't have to wait until death to access this perspective. You can begin seeing your family members through the eyes of eternal love right now. The next time your family frustrates you, remember, these are ancient souls who chose to share this incredible journey of physical existence with you. They agreed to help you grow, and you agreed to help them grow through whatever experiences would serve your highest good. The next time you feel alone or misunderstood in your family, remember, you are never alone. You are surrounded by souls who have known you across lifetimes and will know you for lifetimes to come. The next time you struggle with forgiveness or feel tempted to give up on a family relationship, remember, this is exactly the spiritual work you came here to do. This is your soul, fulfilling the contracts it made before birth. Your family is not your burden. Your family is your gift. They are the souls who love you enough to help you become who you're meant to be, even when that help comes in forms that are difficult to understand or appreciate from a human perspective. So love them, appreciate them, learn from them, grow with them, and trust that every challenge, every joy, every moment of connection or disconnection is unfolding exactly according to a divine plan, designed by love itself. Your soul knew what it was doing when it chose these relationships. Trust that wisdom, honor those choices, and allow yourself to be amazed by the perfect imperfection of the family that's helping you become the spiritual being you came here to be. The journey continues. The love never ends, and the most beautiful chapters of your family story are still waiting to be written by the choices you make starting today. What will you choose?